And so you are being recorded for the 4th time. And let me make sure. Okay. So we started off with buyer action, the basic function you'll deal with day one, how to handle different requisitions, what type of requisitions come through the buyer's queue, and what actions we can take on them. We talked about sourcing events, how to do a spot bid, how to create a bid from scratch, how to utilize a template, and also how to copy from a requisition if needed. Backing documents. We shared with you the importance of a backing document, whether that backing document is tied to the PO as quotes, or that backing document is a contract that is stored in our contract repository. And then we went over POs, the status of a PO, what you can do with a PO, how to change a supplier, adjust an email address, whatever it may be for PO transmissions. Today, we're going to cover a topic that's, it's not difficult. It can be time consuming until you can learn it, and get familiar with AP terminology, and it's invoices, invoice resolution, invoice variances. Let me share my desktop with you. Okay, everybody can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So again, today we're going to talk about an invoice variance, what an invoice variance looks like. We're going to share training videos on credits, short pay, disputes, and voids. The reason we like to do videos, recreating an invoice, especially in the test environment with just one person going through all the actions, it's a little difficult, and there's also a lot of scenarios there. So scenarios could be, the most common, of course, is the wrong price being charged. But again, maybe it's a situation where the supplier applied the wrong line item of the invoice to the wrong PO line item. It could be a duplicate invoice. So the training videos and some of the training material we have will walk you through those scenarios. And then after that, we're going to cover reporting. So how to do searches, how to go in there and look at views, how to create a custom report, the standard reports that we've already got out there, and how to look for buyers' opportunities. So with that, let's get started and go into the test environment. And so when you're looking for an invoice that is a variance, and the actions that you would take would be to go to activity, invoices, and then requiring my approval. You'll see my invoices, my approved invoices, draft invoices, all of these different views. These are ones that are requiring my approval. So as I was saying in the beginning, to walk through the steps, for me to create these, I had to create the order, then I had to create the receiver, and I had to set myself up as the supplier contact to my personal email address, where I received the PO and the receiver, and then I had to invoice us. And so what it does is it makes me as the supplier and the buyer at the same time, which would never happen in the real world. But just to kind of explain the situation that you're looking at. So you would click on that invoice number, and at the top right up here, you'd see 3 line tolerance failures on this invoice. Okay, and as you see what pops up, is, hey, do I want to reject this? Do I want to approve it? Do I want to edit it? Do I want to make comments? I want to look at it first and see where these variances are. So if I want to go straight to the 2 lines with a PO variance, I click right here, and I'm going to see these 2 variances right here, the tolerance, price line, percentages over. So it's showing me right here, this line unit price compared to the PO unit differs from a tolerance of 5% by $2.33. When you come over here and you look at the PO itself, and as I said, anything in blue you can hover over and it'll give you that information. It's a link in the system. As you can see, 5 cases were ordered at $50.29. But you look up here and you also see 5 cases received. But you look up here and you got 5 cases at $55.13. That price does not jive, so you have a variance on this line item. Same thing on this container. Hover over it. We ordered 5 cases at $41.03. We received 5 cases, but the invoice billing was $48.69. So again, not billing according to what we have in the catalog. What would normally happen here and what normally happens in this situation from my region is we respond back and dispute this. And I was hoping this was one of these with the comments. So right here, I would come in and I would say, and remember this terminology, SHTPY, short pay. Then you make really detailed notes. So line 1, PO bid price is $50.29, and let's just say I did the research and I pulled up the bid and that line item price was $50.29. If it was actually $55.13 and I had the incorrect price, I would go to the bid tool and correct that price, and then moving forward you'll have the correct price that won't go into variance. This line item is billed at bid price is $50.29. Do not pay invoice price of $55.13. We go down to our next item, line 2, same kind of variance. So this is going to be line 3, excuse me. The bid price is $41.03. Do not pay invoice price. I know my typing is terrible and I'm having a problem with my keyboard this morning. $48.69. So I'm rejecting this and sending it back to AP, letting them know to short pay this invoice. Now, there's also a step in here, and we'll do the same thing. So this is another variance that's in here for action. To clear that variance, I have 1 tolerance, 1 line with a failure. Again, it brings me straight up to that line item. This line item, as you can see, 5 cases at $24.55, it matches. We received 5 cases, so we're just waiting on the invoice. Beef patties, it's 10 cases at $50.08, but we were charged $50.98. So again, we have a line item tolerance greater than 5%. So we can add a comment to the supplier here. We want to make sure that we add that comment to the supplier, so we would click add comment to supplier. And right here we would say line, come on keyboard, you can do it. My letters are sticking. I think it's cold this morning and it's not used to this weather. So it's line number 2. PO bid price is $50.08. Short pay. My keyboard is sticking, but for time's sake, I'm not going to worry about the spelling. 53.98. One thing I forgot to put up here, and again, the reason we use this SHTPY is when accounting is running their query on pending receipts, invoices that variances that are being paid. They query and then they sort and filter by this SHTPY. And that brings them to everything that needs to be short paid and the justification why. And again, we'll reject. And this will go to accounts payable, and it would also go to the supplier itself. If they're linked to the CSP, notifying them that those are not the prices that we guaranteed. And again, when you check these, you compare them to your bid tool. You make sure that the pricing is correct in your bid tool. If the pricing that the vendor submitted is correct and ours is incorrect, we make those changes in the price tool itself. Any questions so far?
No, but I'm here finally. Sorry about that, Rob.
Oh, no problem. I'm glad that you did get on. I do plan on covering whatever I missed with you. For time's sake, because of our town hall meeting, I went ahead and started.
Yep, no, I appreciate it. I was listening in, so I didn't miss much. We're good. But okay. I got the comment section, nothing in there so far.
Okay, great. So again, just to reiterate, if the price was correct, update the bid tool to update the price. Remember, when you're dealing with variances, and you should know this from experience, that you're going to deal with all kind of variances. It could be a price variance. It could be a supplier submitting a duplicate invoice. It could be a supplier applying an invoice against the wrong PO. The training videos that I'm fixing to share, the first one is credits. We'll talk through some of this, and then how to short pay, dispute, and void. The second video will also talk through this. So if there's no questions, I'm going to go ahead and load up the video.
Hold on a second. It looks like Pam's typing something.
Okay.
And she does not have audio at this point, I don't think. Variance has to be greater than 5%?
Yes, that's what the tolerance level is set at.
Okay.
Oh, let's pause that. Yes, tolerance level is set at 5%. Okay. Any other questions?
Not yet.
Okay. All right, we're going to start with credits. This is a video created by Nikki Bierstorfer as a training video. And here we go.
No audio at this point.
No audio?
No.
Wow. I do not know how to fix that portion. And I don't understand why. Maybe if I turned it up loud enough?
Maybe.
Try this. Yes? No?
No, nothing.
Okay. Well, guys, what I can do is send this team the links and let you watch the video, and then you can ask me questions from there. Give me 1 second here. And I want to do this while we're all on the phone because I don't want to miss this section. It is an important section. I apologize. I did not have anyone that I didn't even think, to be honest with you, to test these two videos to see if they would work. I'll have this sent to y'all here in just a little bit. So we will ixnay the training video. I am going to go back into Coupa training. That's not what I wanted. So again, before I move on, buyer variances. You're responsible for the task related to invoices, including the variances, managing credits, and managing invoices that are short, paid, disputed, or void. What I showed you, again, by going to activity, come on, system. It is not normally this slow, so we're going to go to invoices under activity. And again, you see I've cleared out my approval queue, but if I had any invoices that were requiring my approval, this is where I would find them. Okay, so let's move forward to reporting. So Coupa has various reporting capabilities. We've shared some of that with you so far. You can go under any of these document headers. So like request, you'll have request requisitions or requisition lines subtab. Again, you have your views. We have many views that have already been built for specific properties. You can take and copy a view, and you can always create a new view. We're going to cover all that today. You can do that in orders also. Again, purchase orders, purchase order lines. And again, array of views that are already created. Even within those views, you still can advance and continue to filter down by many, many different descriptions, whether it's a property account code, which is frequently used, a supplier is frequently used, need by dates are frequently used. All of these will narrow down your search. Remember, when searching, less is more. So using keywords will give you less amount of data to review or to go through. The more information you put, the more information you're going to get out of the system. Invoices, same thing. Invoices, we have invoices and invoice lines. We have many custom views already built for properties. And as always, you're able to create your own view. Let's see, items, suppliers. Again, every tab has a different view of what you may be looking for. Some maybe not as others, but all of these are a way to narrow down a search when searching for anything. So let's see. If you want to use the advanced features, so let's say we want to see orders, and I want to see the line item detail. And I'm even going to go down to a Boomtown view. Let's see if we got a Boomtown view in here. Nope, we don't have a Boomtown view, not online purchase orders. They got the 2090. Here we go. So this is Boomtown Bossier's PO view. Now, if I wanted to narrow this down and just look at orders from a specific supplier, I am in Boomtown, so I'm only looking at that property, and that supplier contains capital City. They're all my capital city POs for Boomtown Bossier City. If I want to advance that search even more, come on, you can do it. I can go by and filter by a date. See a created date. When you're using these search fields, and this is just a note, created date, I'm sorry. I know I saw a date in here. These definitions again change. Last updated date might be called something else in the next field. A real common one is the accounting code. So it might be chart of accounts, it could be billing, it could be accounting. As you play around in the system, as you maneuver from requisitions to orders to invoices, you'll get used to what you're looking for. But I want to look at all of them that was last updated within this month. And here are my orders right here. So again, another way to filter and to continue to search for suppliers. How to create a view. So again, we'll clear this. Man, my system is just not wanting to cooperate today. Okay. Clear all this out, clear all this out. So again, you have views that are set up in here, failed transmissions, you've got the property numbers. Most of these CAN reports are set up for you. If there's one that you wanted to copy for another property or a view that you wanted to have for your property, you can go into that. By utilizing this pencil, you can click on it and you can take, and the very first thing you want to do is change the naming convention. The reporting, the queries that you've designed in the reporting are for unopened orders. So all you're going to do is modify this for your property in Hollywood, Perryville. We're going to say just because I know they're not in the system and it'll confuse a lot of people. My content group, I want to see it to only me. I don't want it to be New Orleans. This was created by Nikki. We look at our conditions, so what we're filtering by. As we're filtering, we want to match conditions. So do we want to match at least one condition from every group? If that's the case, you're probably going to narrow down what you're going to see. You're not going to get all of the detailed information that's here. Or you can match all the conditions from at least one group. So again here, match one condition from each group, either one. You take it, you've renamed it, you kept it, and you want to save it as a new view. And there's your view. So when you go back into this list, let's see where it would be at. There it is right here, Hollywood unopened orders. So that view, again, we changed the fields that we needed to, and that would pull up that property's information. That is one way to copy from one. Let's create one from scratch. So I want to go and let's say I want to look at what I have spent with the supplier, and I'm a regional director. I want to look at multiple.
Hey Rob, hold on a second. Quick question. Are we going to be able to see the custom views of other properties, or are we limited to only our property's view?
It depends on how it's set up. So all the standard, let's take one here. Well, I'm looking to see if there's new ones in here yet. It all depends on if the creator has clicked for everyone to see, then everyone will have access to copy this. All of your primary reports, the CAN reports, so the things like pending receipts, transmission failures, PO variances, all of those type reports are CAN reports and are open to everyone, every single property. Some people have individual reports. If you were to go through here, you'll probably see a few in each category that say Rob test. And what Rob does is I create one that just says Rob test, and I make the view only myself. And then I create the document. And the reason I do that is if I'm looking in invoices, I can set the parameters of these conditions and filters to query new information each time, so I'm not creating a new view, if that makes sense. So the majority of our views, if you do look at them again, are going to be to everyone. You will have some people, and if you look at the naming conventions under some things, you'll see like Sherilyn's past due invoices, or Rick Cook's disputed invoices. And most of the time when you see those, you won't see those. Those are an individual that's using them, that's creating their own. But let me show you how to create one from scratch. So I want to look at invoices, and I want to create my very own view. So I go down to the very bottom of that column and click Create View. and it's thinking. Wonder if I got enough time to get another cup of coffee.
Is Coupa always this slow, or is it?
No, sir. No, sir. Okay. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm in a building that's remote from the property, and at times the connection is really, really slow. I have problems here. Coupa is never this slow, and the live is never, ever, ever that slow.
Okay.
Let's go back. I'm not sure exactly what happened right there. It just kind of kicked me out, but we want to create a view. Here we go. So now this is where we have the choice to decide. Number one, what is this view going to be? Rob Greer test, invoice, supplier. So don't want everybody to see it. Usually in my test, I say no, but if I clicked everyone, which is fine with me, everyone could see this report and be able to either copy off of it or get an idea for a report. Or I can restrict it just to a certain group. So I can say just New Orleans can see this report and be able to restrict it. Right now for this purpose, I'm going to do all, everyone. And the first condition I want to look at is I want to look at suppliers. So I want to look at Ecolab. Ecolab, I want to look at their invoices. So I'm typing the supplier. The next filter is I want to look at all the Ecolabs as a region. Okay. So I'm going to pull up the properties that are on Coupa in my region. Continue to add invoice. Okay. And I don't want to see.
Rob, I'm sorry. I think your bottom one, you clicked the wrong thing. It says abandoned reason.
Oh, thank you. You're awesome. I would have got an error. The system would have told me you're trying to pull something bogus. Okay, thank you so much. So I don't want to see the whole historical data for all these properties for all the years that they've been on Coupa. So I want to kind of limit the date. So let's see if we got invoice date. There we go. Today, this month, last month. Let's look at everything for last month. All right. These are some queries that are in our column. So what this does is as you export it, this is the format that it will lie out in. If there's anything over on this side that you want to move over here, you can move it. You can place it up and down in any order that you want, or you can take things off and move them back. Right now, we'll leave it as it is just to look at this report. These are all the functions, again, that you can add to your Excel, and we're going to save this. So right now, this is showing me that my view is not showing me any results. So I know for a fact that I buy from Ecolab. I know for a fact that these 4 properties buy from Ecolab. It just must be in the test environment that I don't have anything from last month. So let's go to the last quarter. We can change that. Notice you're going to have save and save as new. I don't want to save this as a new document and create another view. I want to save this as the same view that I'm just modifying. Still not getting results. So I'm going to do something wild and crazy and go for a whole year. Let's see where we're this year. Again, we'll save. Something is not right. I did this last night. Match all conditions. Match at least one condition. Ha! See, it didn't follow my own advice. Save. That did not give me the results I'm looking for either. So you know what? Let's go back and modify this again. You can continue to modify this until that you get it right. So I want to try a different supplier, care. I want to stick to my accounting codes. Actually, I want to drop it down, make my search a little bit narrower. And I want to look at everything this last quarter. So what I'm asking for is for them to match at least one of these conditions. Nope, I want it to match all conditions, meaning I want it to be from that supplier, either one of these two properties, and I want it to be within this quarter. Ladies and gentlemen, I am not sure what I am doing. I am looking at exactly what I did last night and when I built this filter, so we're going to build a new filter. We're going to continue to create, oh, there's Rob's test already right there. What does Rob's test look like? This is very much the same. And what results does Rob's test give us? Everything from care, restaurant, supply for that period of time. So let's create, we'll take Rob's test and we're going to modify it, but we're going to create it as totally new. So we're going to say Rob's test, invoices. I'm going to clear all this out of here. We'll start with the supplier. So again, don't want it to be only me. I want everyone to see it. The supplier we want to look at is care. The property that I want to look at will be Lake Charles, 014. And I want to look by the last date updated. Create a date. And I want it to be the last quarter. And again, as you can see, you can pick different periods of time between a certain period, on or after a certain period. So if I want to look at everything from January the 1st till today, add that in my parameter. And here is my detail of my report. Any questions on this so far?
Nothing out there so far.
Okay. Again, you will find a lot of these reports, non-PO invoice lines. You know, that's kind of a common report. You want to look at all your invoice lines that have no PO backing. So you could do several things in this search. You can advance it. First, you want to see all of the ones for a specific property. So we'll go to the accounting company code, 13, search. And again, There's our report. Now, it's good to be able to see this information and research it and, you know, go into the system, understand what the problem may be, what it was for, what type of edit you're going to need, whatever the case may be. But you can also export these things. So let's go back. Where was my report at, Rob's? Test invoice report. So again, I wanted to look at everything for care restaurant supply for which property? I think it was Lake Charles. Lake Charles, I wanted to look the time between this time period. Okay, this is my parameters that I have on here. Is there anything I would want to add in here? Maybe, probably quantity might be one. Here we go. Let's see. And I want to, so we already have PO line item quantity invoice, PO line item received, so we really don't need that quantity also. We can take that off. Everything looks good. We save it. And again, you can always go in and alter your reports to a way that's easier for you or to narrow down the information you're looking for. But right now I want to export it, and it gives me the opportunity to export it in several formats. We generally export it in Excel. Oh God, I hate when it's so big that it tells me that. So if the data is small, normally that window will open up right here. Right now, this report is going to email to me. So I'm going to monitor my email for that report. And once it comes in, I will share that with you and show you how we handle that transition. Boy, Nikki's been blowing up my email address here. So while we're waiting for that to be emailed and for me to show you some different actions, I want to show you some standard reports that are in the system itself. So like requisitions reports. You go under this view, and I'm going to take Boomtown Bossier City. I think that is one. Okay, you're going to see pending buyer action that's already in requisitions. Here's one of those private ones I was telling you about, Alice's view. CBRs, you'll start seeing all your canned reports in here. Same thing with requisition lines. Some are a little bit more formatted than others, which free text requisitions is one that you can search by. Orders. In orders, you have quite an array. You know, POs never invoiced, notification report, on hold report. Let's see if this Boomtown, here we go. Deposit required, failed transmission, pending manual, PO closed, PO on buyer hold, PO view, PO with comments, on open POs. Then this goes down into Boomtown, New Orleans, you see the same canned report. So these are all standard reports that the day you go live, these are views that you will need to perform your job duty moving forward. You will use these views probably on a daily basis, some every other day. Some more standard reports that we have already built in here under invoices. Let's see what we've got here. Are going to be invoices themselves. Here we go. Invoices buyer hold, invoices that are rejected, Invoices, no PO. This is going to be an important one for you. One of your goals is going to be to monitor your non-PO report. It's going to show you line items and suppliers that you're paying invoices with that have no PO tied to it whatsoever. The goal of the company is to be in the 80 to 90 percentile of PO-backed invoices. In reality, it takes a property 6 months to a year to get up in the 70s and 80s. We're hoping with this training we can narrow that gap and move it a little bit faster. But POs matching invoices make for a better, cleaner process. You've got that backing document. It's supported by pricing. It's linked to pricing somehow or another. It's not just a director approving an invoice that was never sourced or never negotiated. Any questions there so far?
Nothing in the queue.
Okay. Inventory standard reports, unreceived orders. And we talked a little bit about that, but this is probably two of the key things are unreceived orders and then open warehouse orders, which you'll see there's not, well, there is some, boom. So these are open warehouse orders in the test environment. Again, just by going to inventory, unreceived orders, utilizing this query, which will be designed for your property. Because again, every report that I'm telling you, starting from requisitions, the buyer action report, going to purchase orders, POs with comments, failed transmissions, pending manual, unopened orders, deposits, PO view, buyer hold, PO close. Then under invoices, you'll have invoices that are on buyer hold, invoices that are rejected, invoices that are no PO. And then in inventory again, these two will be your standard reports. This will be in the system automatically when you go live into Coupa. If it is not, you should raise a red flag immediately because it was just overlooked. So let me see if I got that email real quick. Usually that process is not very long, but it looks like it's taking forever. So to narrow that back down, I'm going to go back to my search. Right here. And I'm going to narrow it down where I don't have to wait for this report to email me. So what I want to do is narrow down the date. Let's put that the created date was last month. Nope, no invoices for last month. And I apologize, in the test environment, data is a little bit spotty. So let's go back to between January the 1st and March, before all hell broke loose. Okay, so this narrowed down our search just a little bit. Let's see if we're able to export this one into a file that's not emailed to me. And that is still too much. Okay, let's change the supplier. on keyboard. No invoices from them in that time frame. Let's go back more later in the year. Let's go to June the 1st. Save. Okay, as you can see, I don't have much data there. So we're going to go and add another property because I want to be able to show you how to sort out some data, how to take it from Excel and go a little bit farther with it. 011. Oh, I am sorry, team. All right, let's find another one. Let's do this another way. Am I confusing y'all? Do you see where my dilemma's kind of at? Anybody? What I'm looking for is information that exists in the test database and again, different from the live. So this is everything that we purchased for that property for Cisco Guest Supply. Our goal is to try to export where it's not mailed. And again, another one will be emailed to me shortly. Dog it. Let's see if there's another one I can take and download. What is this? So here we go. So we were able to take this table in my view, just to go back, was a test view, and I was looking for this supplier care. I wanted to know what we have purchased from Baton Rouge, property 24, everything within the last 3 months. The columns that I've chosen is to have the invoice number, the invoice line, invoice date, supplier, header status, all this information down here. So I go back to that report. And again, we exported it to Excel, so here's our report. And this is what your exported report will come out to look like. Now, you can do several things for this, depending on what you're searching for. Come in here and add a filter. And if there's line items, let's say if there was taxes or freight that you wanted to remove from there, through the filters, you could remove those line items. You could also create a pivot table. And I'm not sure how familiar you are with Excel and pivot tables, but let's say I wanted to know all the descriptions and I wanted to know the quantity, the line item quantity that was invoiced, and the total. So right there, I'm able to see items that are high usage, these Imperial rocks. Glasses seem to be very high usage, same thing with the Allegra. I'm able to understand exactly what a property is buying. Do you see this information useful in your future?
Yeah, absolutely.
Eli, I'm going to tell you as a regional, even as a supply chain manager, I find myself querying this information every day. So for an example, for in our position, if one of the things that I was able to do is I wanted to know how much bulk soap we were buying. My bulk soap program was running out of state. And so through this report, I was able to pull up the supplier that we were currently using, the properties I wanted to include, and I was able to get a usage report of how much of this product I use and what the dollar value was, and use that as leverage to negotiate with a local MBE for distribution. So again, there's many ways, there's many views to go in there. All of these views, no matter where you're at, what you're looking under, are exportable to an Excel format. Again, canned reports, your basic reports that you will use every day, will be built in the system. Let's say that your property wants to track gaming license like Lake Charles does. They want to check, have a report sent to them on a regular basis. You can copy this report. You can change the naming convention. You can change to who you want to see this report. You can change, again, the content group. And you can go in here and alter the filters. So for right here, let's say that it was Maine. It would be Maine State Police, and it would be the property for Bangor, Maine, property number right here. So the only thing will change. Anything that we wanted to add to that report, if we saw that, let's see here. We wanted to see any delivery comments, we can take and drag it over there and add it in there. If we wanted to know if deposits were required on any of these things, so the last time it was opened, any of these we can add to this field and it will add it to our Excel report. And we just remember to come down. Because we're creating from an old, we would save as new. This is also a very good way to look for opportunity for buyers. So again, a buyer can go in invoices and the invoice lines, and maybe it's disposable products that they're trying to query. And maybe their primary supplier is, let's see, if we could do this, we'll do Cisco, New Orleans. And again, I'm playing in the system. I have no idea what the results are going to come out for 0/24, the invoice date. The only condition I want to add is, let me see what currency, description, commodity contains. And this is let's save that view. All right, so here is a list of disposables for that property that I just queried. I can export this. Let's see if it's going to email it to me or not. Yes, it is, unfortunately. But then you take the data just like I shared with you a moment ago. You put in a pivot table. You separate your items from the quantities that you're using. Now you've got a beginning for a bid list. You've got a list of your disposables that you're utilizing. You're able to check in to see if they are on program, their contract or not. Again, it's a useful tool for a buyer to look for buyer opportunities. So when I say that, let's go back to the very, very first class. And one of the things that I told you is that your focus would change, your culture would change. The days of, and I can't speak for your property, but I'm going to say a Margaritaville, and we're even on a totally different system than your current system. But the two buyers up here push anywhere from 60 to 90 POs a day, a requisition to a PO. To me, that adds no value. What we're doing with Coupa is things are pre-negotiated. They're pre-sourced. All of our food and beverage, all of our standard items for hotel amenities. We have punch-out catalogs for our office supplies, for our slots department, for printing material, for our facilities department. We've got hosted catalogs with all of your china, glass, silverware. All of these things are in there. So what comes into your buyer queue should be minimal. Lake Charles is probably my biggest property in the region. And if I see more than 10 requisitions in a buyer's queue, I'm not shocked at all. I am shocked if it's more than 10. Most buyer queues have 3 or 4 requisitions at a time. Gives time to the buyers to do added value things. This reporting tool is one of them. Look at what you're buying. What can we consolidate? What is everybody else doing? So many questions to ask and critical thinking and being smarter and adding value to your purchasing than just facilitating an order. This is what we identify as strategic sourcing. This is no longer procurement, purchasing, paper pushing. We're not pushing papers. We're making decisions every day. Every day when we go to our buyer's queue and we look at what's impending buyer action, these are decisions that need to be made. One other thing that you're going to find as a culture change is that you're not going to be so alarmed about this queue. You're not going to sit behind your computer all day and say, oh my God, what's in the queue? What's in the queue? I got to clear the queue. You won't. You won't have to. So many things will be automated that you'll ever actually have time to go in here and look at orders or look at invoice reporting or look at a specific supplier or a specific department even, and through views, extract that information and address a particular commodity. Does all of that make sense?
Yes, in a hazy kind of over the rainbow way.
Yeah, I know I'm painting sunshine and rainbows, and I'm not trying to. Again, anytime you're going into change, there's a little bit of uncertainty. I can say this without a doubt. Day one will surprise you. It won't be a shock. You'll be nervous going in like, oh gosh, but things will already be automating. The day you go in, you go live, your warehouse will be placing their first replenishment order and you won't have a thing to do with it. You won't be taking any buyer action on it. It's all through catalogs. The order will go out automatically, go through approval process and straight to the supplier. You'll have end users that are brand new, that are working through the system itself, that will require some training, that will require some assistance. Things will come through slowly. You'll find that you'll have time to take the training material and the training decks that we shared with you and use best practices on your actions. So again, it's a big culture change. It's not from you having to attack that buyer's queue every day. Now it's critical thinking. What's the best thing? That item in the buyer queue, can that be added on a catalog so I never see it again? If it's something that's purchased every day, those kind of questions. Anything else that you would like to see?
So, do we want to talk about vendor registration, Pam? She had a question regarding vendor registration earlier. Do we want to talk about that, or does anybody else want to talk about that?
Yeah, just Rob, just as how it's going to be handled. How much involvement will we at property have with assisting or doing anything with getting the vendors set up into the e-invoicing?
Pam, you are gonna love this. You're gonna have almost absolutely no interaction whatsoever.
Okay.
You report to Eli, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So in Coupa, under forms, we have what's called a new vendor registration request. End users have this capability, and so do the buyers and the supply chain managers and so forth. So they're going to go in there into the system, and they're going to type in the contact information for this company, as much information as they can fill out, select the property that it's for, the anticipated spend, what type of goods and services they facilitate if they know, and then the person that's requesting it. And then they're going to review it. It's just going to be a recap of this information, and they're going to submit it. When they submit this request, it goes to P&K vendor registration. P&K vendor registration in turn takes that form, sends an email invite to that supplier to complete the link. Now, to kind of show you what that looks like, and you won't have access to this. You will not. These are request forms. I'm sorry?
Will not have access?
You will not. Only regional directors and regional directors and P&K vendor registration have access to this, and it's only because a regional director has to do the final approval on a supplier registration. Okay?
So the end user is filling out this form?
The end user can. We prefer that purchasing does, because purchasing is aware of the supplier. So one of the issues, and I know where you're going with this, I've had end users set up or request for a supplier to set up, and by the time that it got to me, I had to reject it, because an example was Advanced Office Systems, a copier company. One of the properties IT departments thought it would be good to have this supplier set up. I know as a regional director that we have a contract with Konica Minolta. So at that level, I was able to reject it. Your communication will either be with Eli on a supplier, the status. Eli will have this same thing where he's able to go to setup, supplier information form responses, and be able to look at the status of a supplier. So we can pull up here, we can pull up supplier name, contains Garcia. And as you can see, Garcia Roofing right now is pending status. Eli would simply go into the vendor registration. This is kind of what it looks like. If it'll come up. And again, supplier's name, this is a supplier that's completed the information. And what we do is verify that the information is correct, that they have the proper notarized documents, that their W-9 is up to date, that we have a certificate of insurance, their contractor's license, we understand what the ownership is, if they're a diverse supplier or not. In this case, this supplier is. Their affidavit.
Now, this is for new vendors
Yes.
that was never dealt with prior to. What about the vendors that we already have and we're already set up in Great Plains for us, and we're using through Stratton Warren to get them set up for the e-invoicing? We won't have to do this for all of those.
No, this actually doesn't even set you up for e-invoicing. It does
Right.
notate that e-invoicing is required, but this is to register you as a supplier. So you're right, this is for new.
Yeah.
All the ones that you have existing, this is what
I'm
we
asking about the existing.
Yes, so what's going to happen is your database is going to be loaded into Coupa. All the suppliers that are not a duplicate will be loaded in there. We're assuming that the property has these vendor registrations, okay?
Right, correct.
So
So vendors that have email addresses will be set up, as I understand it, with e-invoicing. They'll be sent an invitation to join or to get set up with e-invoicing.
yes,
Where are those emails being pulled from? Our Stratton Warren database, since we send orders through email through Stratton Warren?
yes, that information is being extracted out of your Stratton Warren database.
100% for sure it's Stratton Warren.
Yes, ma'am. You're talking about
Perfect.
the suppliers that are moving, your suppliers that don't exist in Coupa today, that are moving over to Coupa when you go live. The data you have in Stratton Warren today is the data that's moving over to Coupa when you go live.
Perfect. Okay. When will we know? Because there's literally probably just a handful, or should only be a handful, that don't have email addresses in Stratton Warren. Mom and pops, basically. Will we get a report, and when will we be receiving that report so we can get those set up? Like, we have a straw vendor that comes to mind here at Charlestown that I don't even know how they're still faxing their invoices to us. So
Yeah, we have a challenge with a couple of those suppliers out there. So to answer your question, for Margaritaville on the 9th, which was 6-7 days ago, a week ago, I sent the list for Margaritaville. Now, when I saw Margaritaville, I kind of freaked out when we pulled the supplier item master out of Red Rock, because I realized that the property had never deactivated a supplier. They just left them all active. So there was over 1,000 suppliers. And you could imagine about 500 of them didn't have email addresses, and I started freaking. Allison, in our e-procurement team, along with the Hackett group, was able to take that information and compare it against an active supplier list to just pull those suppliers and load them into Coupa. So they're in that process right now. I've got questions from my regional food buyer about suppliers that are specific to Margaritaville that are not showing up in the live environment yet. And it's just because that database has not been loaded yet. Does that answer all your questions, Pam?
I think it does. Yes.
I have a question as kind of a follow-up to that, though. So you said all suppliers that exist in our Stratton Warren database, but not in Coupa, we're going to be rolling over, and that's where we're going to get the information from. What about suppliers that already are in Coupa, and who will be the point of contact at the vendor at that point in time when it's loaded into Coupa? So we may all have different points of contact that we're dealing with, and that's true across the entire enterprise. But we can only have one supplier contact in Coupa. So how do we determine that?
Okay, so let's go back to our buyer training where we talked about how we set up suppliers with a buyer prompt. So any supplier that has multiple contacts or multiple locations will go to a buyer's prompt, and so when that order is facilitated, it's going to prompt that buyer to enter an email address. So we've been through the exercise, like I said, a couple dozen times or a dozen times or so. And what we've learned through that experience is which suppliers, like our glaciers, we've got several glaciers. There's several glacier accounts set up. That is a prompt supplier. Ecolab is a prompt supplier. There's one central location for orders that go directly to Ecolab, and then there's another for the service side. So suppliers are set up at prompt. If I sit here and I tell you that you're going to be 100% when you go live, I'm lying to you. Will you be 95%? Yes, you'll be 95. If your stuff is flowing through Stratton Warren right now, it will flow through Coupa. You will not have that issue. If you run into an issue, the way that we always handled it is we either had the rep from the Hackett group or the what do we call it? It's the support team after the fact, and
Hypercare.
And we call in, and within seconds, we're on Teams, we're on Skype, we're looking at the issue, and it's a resolved issue. It's a done deal. It's just a setting with a specific supplier. And you think about those suppliers that you're questioning, it's the lower end of your supplier group. So it's not as many transactions going out. They're smaller suppliers, especially when you start talking about faxing. Faxing is just not going to happen through Coupa. We drive everything towards being electronic.
And how do you handle those, like, handful of vendors that don't have or can't do that? I mean,
it depends on the situation. So I'll give you an example. I had a water company, DS Waters, which was also Kentwood. They serviced my Louisiana properties. They serviced Black Hawk, I know for sure. And when we went live for Coupa, one of the things they refused to do was e-invoices. They felt they had their own accounting system. So the very first thing that we did in that situation was they weren't the only water supplier. So we went out to different water suppliers, made sure they were willing to e-invoice, found that one, negotiated our rates, and proceeded forward. On your smaller supplier, I have one here that I know is going to be a challenge, but the item that I'm buying from that supplier, I cannot get anywhere else. It's a real 10-ounce cubed steak, and it's a chicken fried steak that they service at a restaurant. This is the only item that supplier supplies me. And I have tried to get the chef to switch chicken fried steak, and he likes this product because it's fresh, it's real, it's not pressed. And so what we're going to do with this supplier is we're going to print out the PO, do a supplier printout, and we're going to email a copy to them, or we're going to fax a copy to them manually. but that's just, each situation is different. We want to drive suppliers to utilize the system. It benefits you as a buyer. It benefits accounts payable. It benefits the supplier themselves. You are going to have that percentage that just won't e-invoice. State police, prime example. I've been asked 100 times in the beginning of Coupa, why can't you get the state police to e-invoice? Think about that for a second. State police are not going to invoice us for licensing permits. They're not. We have to self-report that. We have to tell how many applications we send in and pay for those applications. So that is going to be a manual invoice that actually is handed over to AP. We want that to not be the norm. We want it to flow electronically as much as possible and push suppliers to it. We do realize some of our mom and pops just don't have that capability. And in some situations, unfortunately, if we can't find a workaround, we end up finding another supplier. And that's just business. Other questions? So as a recap, real quick, some additional training material to remember. All of these, I will tell you, even today, these things saved my life. They helped me get through a day. Not being a day-to-day buyer, some transactions, maybe it's doing a CBR or maybe it's doing a deposit. I may forget the exact format or the best practice. And instead of just doing it how I think it should be done, I refer to this training manual because it's really, really quick. The training stuff that we're presenting to you, again, it's going to be on Microsoft Teams under PNG Coupa, under the procurement post-go live information. There's a lot of training material. Our Q&A tracker, we're trying to get it up to date and get answers on all the questions in there. That will always be posted as a reference for frequently asked questions. And again, besides this training guide, this YouTube channel, subscribe to it. Again, if you are in the system itself, you can go directly down to it. And a lot of what we discussed is in there. You'll find end user training, buyer training, how to review your responsibilities. And you'll see all of these are very short videos. I don't think this one's 20 minutes, how to do deposits. But most of them are under 10 minutes. They're very brief and you're able to pull them up very, very quickly and go over the practice or the step that you're fixing to perform, just to ensure that you're doing best practice. And again, if you subscribe to this YouTube channel, every time there's an update or a new video loaded, which is quite often, you'll get that update through email. So our next steps is continue to build knowledge, review the training material, reach out to e-procurement with questions, be sure to look at the fact tracker, to look at some of the questions. Maybe it's questions you would have never thought of and it's something that relates to you. Use the practice script provided to apply what you have learned. Bring your questions, and we're going to start January the 4th, and I think January the 5th is the first class, and I think I conduct that where we're going to host a call with all the questions you may have. I'm not even going to prepare for this class. This is going to be just you spitballing questions and me going through the scenarios and answering your questions. In preparation for go live, make sure that your open POs for inventory are closed. Make sure your variances are cleared daily. Close all the open inventory documents that you have before go live, and be prepared for that 3-day closure. I've got, well, right now at Margaritaville, my warehouse supervisor has a line out that it's Coupa dates, the last date they can order from the warehouse, the last day we're going to pull, the last day they're going to order out of Red Rock, the first day they order out of Coupa, the delivery schedule that's tied to it, all of it, so that the end user is on the same page as the program. And during the cutover, any open POs that you may still have in Stratton Warren that haven't been delivered, we'll recreate those in Coupa, and then we'll start creating SPOs for vendor managed programs. So anything that's vendor maintained in your warehouse. Any questions? So with that, this is our go live schedule. As you can see, we're all getting transformed into Oracle on the 11th, but also on the 11th, somewhere in here, is Margaritaville. No, they still have it wrong here. They have us on the 13th. They moved us to the 11th, so we're moved up. This is actually inaccurate. But Margaritaville will go first, and as you see, properties that'll follow suit. This is going to be quick and aggressive. So what is it, 20 properties in about 12 days, something like that, 2 weeks. Very aggressive schedule, but you'll find once that you get rolling, it works out very, very smoothly. Any final questions?
I think we're good. I'm sure there'll be a ton of them, but thank God for those Q&A sessions.
You know, again, don't hesitate. Some people, I got an email this morning kind of on some feedback of some classes, and it was positive feedback, but there's people out there that don't like to ask questions, and there's people that do. And sometimes the people that do ask questions are asking what other people are thinking. I encourage, if you have a question, there is no stupid question. This is all new to every one of you. Don't ever hesitate. Use me as a resource if you like. I'll be glad to assist in any way during your training, during your go live, and post go live. All right, well, I thank you for your patience and your professionalism, and I thank you for your attendance, and I really enjoyed teaching this group. And
Rob, appreciate you. Thank you so much. You know, we enjoyed working with you for the last few sessions. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope it all leads to success, and it will. But y'all have a great day, and I will talk to y'all if you join the meeting on the 5th of January. I will be on that one live and going through your quick Q&As.
Thank you, Robin.
Have a good
Thank you,
day.
Robin.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, guys, ladies.